Good afternoon, everybody. This is Alex with Underground Noise, Webisode number 17. I'm here with Terrance Hobbs from Suffocation.
What
He's
up,
the
everybody?
only original member. How you
I'm
doing
still
today?
here, you guys. Don't worry. I'm hanging in there, man. Just nursing a little bit of a hangover. Had some practice last night with the guys. We had a bunch of drinks. Doing the same old, just getting ourselves together, getting ready for the live shows, obviously, that are coming back for us. So I'm hanging in there, man.
Sounds good. Sounds good. First off, I'd like to ask you, who are your musical influences?
Okay, well, I mean, that's a very uh, big pool of musicians. I mean, I have a lot of them, like starting out from like, let's say genre wise, like you're talking about like blues, rock and roll, things of that nature, like the old school stuff. I really like BB King. I like Jimi Hendrix, Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page, obviously, Randy Rhoads, Richie Blackmore, Yngwie Malmsteen, Kerry King, the list goes on and on and on. Kirk Hammett, there's so many musicians and people in bands that like I just admire as, growing up and aspiring to play guitar. I mean, like Glenn Tipton from Judas Priest, fucking Paco de Lucia, Satriani. There's just a plethora. So I'm not stuck in like one little area. Eddie Van Halen, I mean, you guys know. There's just,
Absolutely.
yeah, all those people, the Adrian Smiths and Dave Murrays of the world, I fucking love them too, Iron Maiden. So there's really a lot of musicians that I really like a lot. Some of my new favorite musicians like Tosin Abasi, Animals as Leaders, fucking amazing guitar player. I gotta give him credit. Dude is just killing the game. Very influential amongst a lot of musicians these days. So I just might as well lump him into the pile of every musician that I like, which is quite a bit, They're just
Right
there.
on.
But if I'd have to say that there is one favorite out of them all, I would have to put Eddie up on the top, Eddie Van Halen. Yngwie Malmsteen would be next. And then of course, the Kirk Hammetts and, the Gary Holtz and all that stuff, because those guys are really what, I don't know, kind of influenced me to play more aggressive music. You know what I mean? Not just staying stuck in playing like classical styles or blues styles. They just went for it, pure trem speed picking and just heavy riffs and just putting that whole thing together that people could beat the crap out of each other and enjoy it. Those are the guys that I really like the most.
What's your favorite thing about being on tour?
Oh, there's just so many things, man. So many things. Well, of course, the main thing is just being able to play in front of our friends and fans. I wouldn't trade that for the world. It's great to be able to see the kids that we knew, that we grew up with, that have moved out of the way, our fellow bandmates in different bands that are around the world and around the country, to be able to go out and, show face with them, hang out, have a great show, play with newer bands and bands that we loved from when we were a kid, just the fact that we're not in our own country and we're able to see, parts of the world that most people don't get a chance to unless they go on vacation or they're on honeymoon. Those things are the greatest things. But the main thing that we can actually be able to do that, there's not a better feeling in the world, in my opinion. Of course, we like the girls. We like the girls too, but the fans take the cake, bro.
Yeah, fans are very important. They definitely come in handy to just cheer you on and keep telling you, keep it going, man.
Exactly. We wouldn't be half as far as where we were if it wasn't for the people that have been listening to the music and supporting us. So throughout every iteration of this band, and unfortunately I've I've been the fortunate guy to be in all of them, but in every iteration of some fans, you know, they only want to hear the older stuff because that was the lineup that they liked or that they were exposed to, and nothing new compares to it. But all of those fans that even just took the time to go out and buy a record or download it or come to a show or buy a poster or a lighter or a weed grinder or something like that, those people are the ones that really, you know, show us that we're still doing the right thing and that there's a place for us, you know what I mean? So without
Oh,
them,
yeah.
we wouldn't be, you know, without them, we wouldn't be anything, you know?
Out of all the songs that Suffocation has written, my personal favorite is Mass Obliteration from Human Waste and also Effigy of the Forgotten.
Oh,
Effigy was the first
right on the
album I
old
heard
school
by you
stuff.
guys. Now, my question about those
Right on, man.
is what song did you find to be your most technical and most difficult to write?
I'm sorry, the most technical part I got, but you cut out after that.
Okay. What would you say was the
So
most
what song was the most technical and
difficult to write?
just cut out? All right. Well, as far as playing and difficulty recording, man, you know, especially in the earlier records, like let's say the Breeding the Spawn album, which had the worst production of all of our records, but the music was really like intense. Like some of the songs on that record were just, you know, out of control to play. And I think that like for the most part, almost all of the songs have like that level of difficulty that isn't, I don't know, it's not like one song is easy and one song is really hard to explain it to you. Most of them, like on a scale of 1 to 10 or 7 or above, you know. But I mean, during that record, let's say Effigy, for me, probably one of the most difficult songs to play would have been like, at the time would have been like Legion of Veracity, maybe maybe like Habitual Infamy, were kind of technical, difficult songs. Once you went to Breeding the Spawn, that record, like there's just, you know, almost every song is that technical. So they're all a pain in the ass to play, you know. And then once you get to Pierce from Within, actually Pierce from Within is it's a pretty difficult song to play. So like those few songs are probably some of the hardest, you know, for me in particularly. Once we got up to Of the Dark Light, the newest record, just the actual speed of the record probably made it the hardest record for me to like literally record, because everything's just so syncopated and exact that, you know, that you if you missed the beat, it was fucked up. You know what I mean? You're just thrown off into the wilderness. So there's no room for recovery and there's no room to miss things. And it's just a fucking fast record. You know what I mean? So you do that for 5 minutes, a couple of songs, and your fucking forearms like this big, and you're like, holy shit, you know, this is pretty difficult.
I can only imagine.
But as far as technicality, left-hand wise, yeah, like Pierce from Within, Brood of Hatred, Legion of Veracity, those songs are pretty difficult. You know what I mean? So, I mean, maybe to some people it's not, but to me it sure as fuck is. You know?
After playing for a billion years, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's something else, and I'm really happy that I've been able to have that kind of longevity, because a lot of people, you know, they get fucking tendonitis, they, you know, have health problems. I haven't really had that issue, so I'm good. And to be able to still be able to go back and play those songs, especially, you know, reiterating them after like, you know, 20 years is a cool thing. So yeah, there'll be another Breeding the Spawn song on the next record, of course, you know.
Very cool.
I have to always go back to the super tech shit just to make sure everybody can feel the contrast of what we're doing now as opposed to then. And plus that record just sounded like dick. So if I can manage to re-record a song every record, maybe one day you guys can all piece together a better Breeding the Spawn, you know?
Yeah, put a little balance out there is all.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
That's
you know, just so people, for the old school fans, that's what's got to be there. I mean, it's one thing to get new school fans and younger kids now, and the style of aggressive music has changed for those, you know, for kids growing up nowadays. as opposed to when I was growing up listening to, you know, death metal and black metal and, you know, grind and shit like that. So to keep the integrity of what this band always had been is one of the most important things for us, you know. Make sure that you guys go, oh, yep, that's Suffocation. You know, it's not, even if it's a different singer, you're gonna be like, oh, well, this is pretty fucking, it's good, you know. Don't keep it that
Yeah, I
way.
can definitely understand that.
Yeah.
Now, when
Yeah,
you were
man,
a child,
there's no reason to lose intent.
when you were a kid, Terrance, do you remember the very first instrument you played?
The very first instrument that I actually played, oof, well, I mean, at that point, I wasn't actually playing it. I was kind of just, but my great grandmother had a piano downstairs and there was an acoustic guitar downstairs. So I was able, as like a little toddler, to go down there and start beating on the keys of the piano and start trying to dick around on the acoustic guitar. From when things got serious, maybe I was 13 years old, and that's when I really started taking a liking to a guitar so much that I would just sit in my room and like emulate what I could get off the radio, you know? So playing like Black Sabbath and playing like Black Sabbath, like Deep Purple, you know, all the new stuff that a guitar player would learn, just, you know, Iron Man, Smoke on the Water, you know, Stairway to Heaven and the Immigrant Song, you know, like things like that. Like those were like the first songs I had ever learned how to play, but that was like when I was 13. But the first instrument I actually picked up back then probably was the piano, because that was the first I seen a piano. I was like, and I could just make noise on it. But the guitar, for me, the love of guitar really started at maybe about 11 years old. And from like 11 on to like 17, I just locked myself in a room with you know, with whatever guitar I could get my hands on, whether or not it was an old broken acoustic harmony guitar, or if it was just like an old broken Kramer that had 4 strings on it that my buddy down the road had sitting in his garage. You know, like I would just take it home and just try to play it. And eventually it just spawned into where I got an Ibanez, and I played on that Ibanez for a while, and then I just went straight to BC Rich, and it was like, that was it. I was stuck on a Warlock for the rest of my life, you know. So
I have a
I mean,
Warlock myself.
my man.
Yes, sir. It's a Kerry King Warlock, to be exact.
There you go. Perfect. That's all you need. As long as it's got Warlock on it, I'm a happy guy. I don't care if it's a platinum bronze series. It's just that shape to me. It just, I was attracted to it like so much that I didn't know what to do. So by the time I was 13, I got my first Warlock, and it had a Kaler. It was an old NJ series one. And I mean, I literally wore out the neck, popped the frets out of the fucking thing. Like, just, I beat that guitar to death. I did. I wish I had it, but I wouldn't have been able to play it anymore anyway, because I just, you know, I just abused it. And then once I went through that guitar, I had a whole bunch of different Ibanez's and a whole bunch of different, but I was stuck on a Warlock. So that,
Yeah.
I've gone through fucking 20 already, you know.
I
A
still
lot of them, a lot of
Ibanez,
guitars, yeah, I mean, they're great guitars too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the RG series and you know, the Universe guitars and all that stuff, you know, the Steve Vai ones, they fucking play awesome. And the neck profiles are like super thin, you know, so they're really very comfortable. But what happened with me was I would wear through the fucking seams on the back of the necks, and then just pop the fucking headstock right off it, you know, just because my sweat would get into them and it would pink. I was like, I got to get something with a little bit more of a solid neck, you know. And you know, the BC Riches always had like a thin profile, but not too thin, and they always had like a fantastic paint jobs on them. So because of that, I didn't have that kind of wear and tear on the BC Riches that I did with the natural finish necks and shit like that. And I've been stuck on them ever since, man. I've just been stuck on them ever since.
Have you ever had any moments while you're on stage or on tour that have been life-threatening or considered embarrassing?
Um, well, life-threatening, that's kind of difficult to say. Early on, I can tell you a story. Early on, when we first started touring in Europe, and this had to have been like 1993, maybe 94. We did a tour with Deicide. And at the time, they had it in all the magazines, Glenn Benton, you could write a lot on a wall with a dead fucking animal, that whole thing. And the PETA activists were really like after him. So we're playing in Portugal and, we're sharing a tour bus and the place was just a fucking mob scene inside the venue. So me and Glenn turn around and he's like, we're going to go back to the bus. You want to go back to the bus? I was like, sure, Glenn, let's go. And next thing you know, it's just a mob scene of people. So now we're fucking running down the street, right? We're running down the street. We finally get back to the bus. When we get to the bus is surrounded by fucking cops and dogs because PETA activists had threatened to blow our bus up because of Glenn. So I'd have to say that was it was fucking surreal, I don't know if I was really in danger or not, or if it was just, but the police and the dogs were there. And I mean, that had to have been the closest thing for me. Like, it's never been something like where our band got into a fight or something like that, or somebody came into a crowd and just started shooting like Eagles and death metal. That one in particularly, just because of Glenn and that bad blood of PETA and the activists and all that shit, was probably the scariest thing that's happened to me on a tour. Like, just the fact of knowing that I could have physically been blown up because of something else is fucked up, But we're still alive, and so's Glenn. So yeah,
Right
so
on,
that, metal will prevail.
Now, here's a question I haven't asked any musicians yet, but I know you play guitar in the band. Have you ever tried to growl yourself?
Yep. No, I have the voice for it. I've been an average smoker for fucking 30 years, and I think the guitar keeps me preoccupied enough that the only time I'm going to say anything, it's going to be like, fuck, just because I'm too busy playing,
So
Shit,
you rich
that one didn't
guitars,
come
you
out
say.
right,
Right. You were saying
And I'm like,
that,
yeah.
you were saying that
Oh, what was that? I'm
Rich
sorry.
is
Just
your favorite to use, right?
absolutely. And I mean, I like my custom Scott Provanik guitars, which, he's a big BC Rich fan too, and he custom made a couple of guitars for me. One's a Widow, and then I have a couple of Warlock shapes that he made for me.
Cool.
Personally, there's some of his earliest guitar builds, and he was like, "Well, dude, I really want to build you a guitar. I'm a big BC Rich fan too." And he's like, "Well, what shape would you want?" And I was like, I fucking don't know. Like, I couldn't even tell you. I'm just so stuck on a Warlock. And he's like, yeah, man, I got a Warlock 7-string. And I made this like stealth knockoff guitar for myself. And I was like, just if you want to build a guitar, he's like, okay. And he built me a Warlock. And I have to say, I mean, it plays fucking great. You know what I mean? But I am a diehard BC Rich fan, and I've been endorsed by them for so long that it's kind of like hard for me to say that I would ever leave BC Rich. I don't really need anything from them. I've got my babies, but it's just great guitars, man. I can't knock them.
What's your favorite amp?
Well, I am a diehard PV user and have been since I was 13 years old. So right now, I mean, I really love my Triple X2 head. I think it's got a very nice, distinct sound. But I'm an avid 6505 plus user. So, those two heads in particular are my favorite. And I mean, PV, as far as a company, is fucking awesome. They've been awesome to me. The guitar heads that I've been using from them have done nothing but serve me well. So yeah, I mean, I'm a diehard PV guy. Anything from a 5150 up to, an Invective guitar head, they're all like my favorite because they're all so very similar. So if I have the opportunity to play on any of them, if I don't have my guitar head, and like, let's say I'm coming down to Georgia soon to come and play a festival, If they're supplying the equipment for me and they just give me a 6505, I'm good to go. You know what I mean? So anything PV, that's my thing, you know.
Right on. I remember starting out with a PV, and then I moved up to crate, and I liked the sound of the crate for a while.
Yeah,
And
crates were great.
I've been using my Line 6 Spider 2 FX amp since 12 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, even Charlie, my other guitar player, has a Line 6 fucking Spider. And he uses, I don't know what generation his is, but he uses that thing at home religiously. I mean, it's easy. You plug it in, you got your effects, you got everything you want on it.
Yeah, it's pretty manual and digital at the same time.
You can't really knock it. So I mean, as far as like amps for me, I've got a PV Viper 2 practice amp. I've got a PV Triple X 2 head here. Got a couple of 6505 pluses here. So, you know, I mainly use my Triple X 2 head just mainly for recording stuff at home. And then I use the 6505s mainly on the road. Like, they're just commonplace, they're easy. Put a Max On pedal on it, Max On OD9 overdrive pedal. Get myself some super distortions or, you know, something like that in there and a guitar. And it's perfect, man.
Awesome, very awesome.
I mean, I have a lot of stuff here at home that I use that I just won't take on the road just because it's too much, you know. Sometimes to go out there with that fucking whole rack and it's got all your shit in it, and you know, you've got these fucking heavy pedals and effect processors and shit. Like, I just want it to be simple. I want one lead pedal, a noise suppressor, and an overdrive, and just, you know, that big. That's all I have to take with me, you know. But I also have a TC Electronics G Major 2. I have a TC Electronics fucking footboard. What's the name of this fucking thing? I can't remember. Sick. G System. I have a TC Electronics G System, a G Major 2. I have an Eventide Ultra Max harmonizer pedal. I've got, you know, Boss NS2 noise suppressors. I also use the Max On OD808, OD9 Plus, and that's really it. Besides, you know, super distortions in my Warlocks, man. That's my main rig. Oh, I also use Vader cabinets, of course, because, you know, they're loud and they're Vader and they're cool.
Vader rocks.
Oh, Vader's awesome, dude. Those guys, Adam, fucking, I love you, buddy. They make some great cabinets, and I mean, they're hard to come by now because he's really kind of stopped making them, unless I have to badger him to make me cabinets at this point. But they're worth, you know, they're worth it. 480 watt cabs, they're pretty brutal, man. Yeah.
Before I forget, Matt McGackey told me to tell you hi.
You tell him, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, I found him on Facebook, so I said, hey, I'm going to interview Terrance Hobbs. So he says to me, tell him I said, hey.
Hey, man, be seeing you out on the road soon, bro. You know,
absolutely.
which is cool. Very nice. Anyhow, so yeah, man, we're just, as far as Uppo, man, we're just still kicking it, man. We're just working on our tunes. We're about halfway there with a new record, you know. We're nitpicky as fuck on our riffs nowadays, you know. And we're just waiting to get it all together, get back on the road, come see you guys, and rock and roll, you know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe we'll have you on one of the gigs too, so we can hang out.
Oh, for sure. That'd be nice.
Not, man? Hey, man, we all got to stick together somehow, right?
That's right. We're all in it together.
Oh yeah. Well, anything else? What else you got for me?
Let's see. I really can't think of much of anything. Here's a question. Are there any genres of music that you try to write other than death metal, or just strictly death metal?
I mean, no, really, my writing is right now purely only focused on death metal stuff. When I'm like just sitting around digging on my guitar, I kind of play to the TV set. So whatever's you know, whatever music's on the TV, I try to improvise on, and just to keep my skills, you know, just to hone my skills more. Somebody like when I was a really young kid, his name was Don, and this is like before I really started learning how to play. He would come and hang out with us, and we'd all smoke pot together, me being a young kid and everything. And he would just sit there and play the guitar for us all the time. And he was like, the best thing to do is to like literally take your guitar, and with what you're watching on the TV, you know, and listening to on the TV, like Tom and Jerry, for example. The music of Tom and Jerry is like usually super classical, super orchestrated, you know, just like many cartoons and things like that. And just to improvise and learn some of those patterns and scales and just techniques by just sitting there improvising is like one of the best things in the world. And that's what he told me, and still to this day, that's what I do. But right now, when it's really coming down to writing, it's not like I'm doing much of anything else. I'm not like trying to write like a, you know, a blues album or a rock record or a solo record of just guitars or anything. Suffocation keeps me busy enough, so I'd rather just focus my attentions on what's good, what keeps me out in the world, and you know, keep my fans happy. You know,
Absolutely, man.
that's what's important. You know,
If you could bring back one dead musician or possibly two, who would it be?
shit, man, there's a lot, man. Well, I mean, Eddie Van Halen, I would always love to have back because he was just one of the most phenomenal musicians, you know, that was ever created. I mean, he's fucking legendary. And other than him, it would be a real tough call for me, but I would have to say that I would love to see Ronnie James Dio, if I could bring him back, because I mean, yeah, of course, you know, like you know, the dudes from ZZ Top, I wish that they were back, you know. I wish Joey Jordison didn't die, you know, like, and it's hard for me because even on social media, it's like everybody just blows up when a person dies. And I mean, I get it, but I don't want to be that guy that's just going to be run of the mill because everybody's saying it. And it's like, I'm sure the people that were close to them are grieving very hard. So for them to even go on social media and just see a million people commenting on the death of somebody, like, I think it's a little bit, disrespectful, you know, but in the same light, you know, they are iconic people. So I mean, I would just, it's just a travesty to know that they're gone. You know what I mean? It's just a travesty. So kind of have to leave it like that.
Well, my last question for you,
Yeah, Dio,
Terrance.
man. That guy. Sure, brother.
Yeah, Dio was one of the best singers I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just influential as fuck, man. You know? But sure, shoot, man.
Okay, last question for you would be, do you have any last words for Underground Noise?
Well, Suffocation is going to be coming back soon. We're going to be back out on the road. I hope that everybody stays safe from COVID because we don't need that bullshit. Support your local underground musicians as much as you possibly can. Buy them a t-shirt because we all have to eat a can of soup too. And see you out on the road, man. Support the underground.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time today, Terrance.
Anytime, Alexander, man. We love you, man. Stay brutal. Stick with the metal. You can't go wrong. We're a big, happy family. Let's make sure that stays that way.
Absolutely.